All right, let's see what we got here. Yeah, that one might be really nice. I like that. Ooh, I like that one. That's pretty cool. Nice color. Hmm. Oh, yeah, backlit. Look at those. Lovely. Yep. That's a possibility. A nice ground vine. All of these look great. Hello, minders. Welcome back to the Mind of Watercolor. I love strolling through little wooded areas. Maybe you do too, where there's like light breaking through the trees, and spotlighting bits of foliage and ground clutter and that sort of thing. And that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like little spotlights coming through various parts of the tree canopy. Just makes for some really interesting light. It's a challenge though, isn't it? To get those bright leaves, those bright clusters, sprays of foliage against a dark background. Because we use a transparent medium, it's something that I practice and try all the time. And you will just see a lot of it. And it's worth working on because there's so much of it out there that could make for such interesting paintings. The small scenes, the foliage bunches that just really light up when the sun comes through the trees. I'm all about it. I am all about it. So, yep, this is a plein air session down at a local park. Been at this park before. Here's the scene that I actually decided to use and set up in front of. And we're going to get going. Now, to do this, and when you do plein air, you don't really use mask much. At least I don't. That's kind of inconvenient to use mask on location. And really, it's a good practice to learn how to do transparent light foliage over dark backgrounds. This is how I started, and I just kind of blobbed in these leaf shapes from the tree. Nothing real special. I used a big brush. You can see that big quill there, that mop, and I blobbed it in. And where the contrast and edges and detail is going to come is when I paint around those. And that's what you have to do. If you can't use mask, or you're not in a situation where you want to use mask or you don't like to use mask, a lot of people don't, then you're going to have to strategically figure out how to paint around those canopy clusters of leaves. So once those were done, I just stroked in a few tree trunks just to kind of block in. This is really just a blocking in process right here. Oh, and it was a lovely day. I mean, it was like low 80s. Kind of unusual for us in August. And here you can see I've made a lot of progress. I've just kind of been dabbing in that background around those bright leaf clusters, if you will. And the other challenge is just getting those tree trunks properly rendered. I like to have bits of that light, that mottled light coming from the sun that's breaking through the trees. I like to have that hitting the trees in spots if I can. So you'll see me working towards that. And then the other formula to all of this is nice ground shadows. And I think we got a good foundation. Here almost always will finish and tweak these things in the studio. So here I am, back in the studio. And I just wanted to add some complexity back into those deep woods, just some other tree trunk shapes back there. Just to layer it back, pull your eye back into the depth of the woods behind those sunlit branches. Don't have to put a lot. In fact, I didn't put a lot of the trees in that were in my scene. This is just another case of designing your scene using the facts that you have in front of you. And I think that I'm pretty happy with the way the light and dark is structured. It's convincing enough. It's just now a matter of deciding on the details. This is a Rosemary and Company Eradicator brush. These are fairly new. I got them at Pace. Like them. They're sort of a medium stiff scrubber. They're not as stiff as like a full scrubber, but I was able to lift and get some bright branches, little saplings in the background. And now I just decided to add a little gouache. And this really, don't want to overdo this because I try to keep these pieces transparent, or my goal was here to keep it transparent. If I'd been wanting to do gouache solely, I would have done that. But here I just wanted to filigree out those edges, detail out those edges a little bit. And at this point, the only way to do that was a few dots of gouache. But 95% of this, of course, maybe 98% of this is transparent watercolor. But I thought the gouache just kind of helped fill out that detail and weave those foliage clusters into the background a little bit better. Now back to transparent watercolor. I think this is sort of the final stage, as I was just glazing over some color just to make the greens a little more brilliant. So both a little bit of gouache, a little bit of transparent watercolor glazed over the bright or whiter or lighter areas. Trying not to change the value a whole lot. Turned out to be a really fun piece. I really enjoyed it. All right, so here's the completed piece, and I'm pretty happy with it overall. But it's interesting because while I was happy with it, I wanted to study this process more. Maybe come up with some ideas for how to do it softer, or kind of hard to put into words. I just kind of wanted to make the process repeatable in a very predictable way, and just wanted to explore and see what would happen. So I actually ended up doing 6 more studies. These were the first 2. This was heavy with gouache. I did it the same way, all transparent watercolor, but ended up going in and just doctoring it with gouache. Not as part of the process, but just to kind of play with my shapes, because I'm dealing with several things here. Not only the contrast, but the shape design. This was a little bit too broken up. That would work in some situations. Here I redid it again. I wasn't at all happy with the trunk of the tree. But again, I'm trying to repeat the process in ways and sort of filter out the things I don't like to do while keeping the things I do like to do. That gave rise to these 2 studies. I'm much happier with the shape design, the way leaves grouped together. I still felt like I could probably do more there. Painting wise, this wasn't great. I ended up with a background that I thought was too dark. The trunk of the tree is fairly loose and rough, but the process, I think, yielded some interesting results. This was just another attempt at this. I spent more time here sort of texturing the background and seeing how, first of all, lightening the background. I thought this was too dark, and then texturing it to give it some dimensional depth, to look like there was leaves further back behind these groups. Overall, though, I still felt like I wanted to hone the process even further. These were my last 2 and the ones I were most happy with. I like the shape design of the foliage clumps. While the color is different in the background, I didn't worry so much about covering everything with an even tone. That was part of the problem here, getting an even background color and tone. And realizing, I think in reality, you don't need to do that, because if I go back to my original piece that was on location, it varies quite a bit. And I was able to bring it in pieces and parts and get a nice texture like this, but it varied in value also, which is very natural. So I like that. I wanted to see if there was a way to get a softer inclusion or meshing of the leaves with the background. So I treated this one a lot more wet and wet, with a lot more variation in the background color and value. Now, while this doesn't look like much here in the sketchbook, I was most happy with this process. So by the time I've done this one, this 6th iteration, I'm pretty happy. I felt like I've been making some breakthroughs, and either one of these has elements that I would repeat. There's a few things about this that could work, but overall I kind of rejected this, and I kind of rejected these. These were both very heavy-handed. Oddly enough, I felt like the on-location piece kind of did what I was trying to do. And so when you do something and you like it and you think, oh, that was successful, you want to kind of nail down that as a repeatable process. All right, thanks everyone. I appreciate you watching. Hope that was helpful and informative and entertaining. Thank you so much, patrons, for your support. We'll see everybody in the next video. Bye-bye.